Alright guys, I'm going to give you a super quick overview of this past quiz that you took, because some of you, it was hit and miss, some of you did really well, some of you didn't do well at all, some of you got some and not others, and I just want to quickly explain why and how we get what we get on this. So I'm going to go to preview and go in to take this as if I were a student. So we had two parts of this quiz, and the advantage that you guys have is that these aren't being proctored, okay? So you can use your notes and you can use your book for this, so you just gotta have stuff kind of handy and ready to go. So this first part was actually not anything to do with the subjunctive. It was these expressions that we had a little while back that were verbs that work like gustar, alright? So we saw the verbs faltar and doler, quedar, all of those, and then we had a whole list of verbs that work like gustar, so you could always reference these if you weren't sure what one was saying. So, el uno. Our important phrase here that we want to replace is me cuesta. En mi casa hablamos tanto español como inglés. In my house we speak English as well as Spanish. Por lo tanto, a veces me cuesta no mezclar las lenguas cuando hablo en clase. For that reason, sometimes I have a hard time not mixing the languages when I speak in class. Which phrase is an equivalent for me cuesta? I have a hard time. Well, there's a couple of clues you could use. Obviously, it's not going to be anything with a le in there, right? But if we know that cuesta means to be difficult, we can see that the answer, me resulta difícil, would be exactly the same thing. El dos, mi amigo es médico y aunque trabaja muchas horas, la ventaja es que nunca le falta dinero para hacer las cosas que él quiere. So, he never lacks money. In other words, he always has more than enough, right? So our verb for to have more than enough is sobrar. So, la ventaja es que le sobra dinero. He has more than enough money to do what he wants. El tres, ayer conocí a un nuevo profesor, me causó una muy buena impresión. So, we'll use some grammar clues here. We have a verb in the past tense, singular. The only verb we have here in past tense singular is this one. And if you know what it means, it's twice as easy, right? Cayó bien, me cayó bien, I liked him. He made a good impression on me. Tres. Mi tía siente pena por los perros callejeros. She feels bad for street dogs, and every time she sees one, she leaves him something to eat. So, mi tía siente pena. We want something in the, something that refers to her, so le would work. And then we would actually say, a mi tía le dan lástima. So, dar lástima is a synonym for to feel sorry for. El número 5. El profesor no encontrará normal que hayas faltado tantas veces a clase. So he'll think it's weird, he won't think it's normal. What's another way we could say the same thing? This one right here, le parecerá. Another clue just by looking at the word. We see this is in future tense, singular. This is our only verb in future tense, singular. 6. ¿No te causa sorpresa que tu hermana esté embarazada después de que te dijo que no quería hijos? Okay, we've got sorpresa here. We know that's related to the verb sorprender. So, doesn't it surprise you? We could say, ¿no te sorprende que tu hermana esté embarazada? Okay, so that one works. So, we're on number 6. Número 7. A mi abuela le molesta muchísimo cuando los jóvenes llevan jeans que son demasiado grandes para ellos. So, we're talking about the jeans that don't fit them well, right? They're too big for them. We have a verb that means to fit in certain contexts, which is the verb quedar. Notice also that the only one that refers to jeans, or los jóvenes rather, is this one, les. El número 8 lo encuentro muy extraño, so I find it very strange. In other words, me extraña. It's strange to me. It surprises me. 9. Mi amiga argentina adora. So, synonym of adora, we could say a mi amiga le fascina. And then lastly, no estamos preocupados. In other words, no nos preocupan. So, just to contrast a little bit here, our original sentence in 10 would translate as, we are not worried about our jobs. If I were to put in this phrase, it would read as, no nos preocupan would read as, our jobs do not worry us. All right, same idea, different phrasing. Okay, so let's look real quickly at the subjunctive part of this before my battery dies. So, we have a few things to take into account here. Is it subjunctive? Is it indicative? What tense is it in? All right, all of these things we can find in the sentence. There are clues in the sentence to tell us. And it's usually just one little phrase that's going to give us the key to all of that. So, en la residencia estudiantil no dejan que visitantes de fuera. So, in the dorms, they do not let visitors from outside, they don't let them come in after a certain hour. So, we need to know if this verb dejar, is this a verb of influence that's going to trigger the subjunctive? Yes, it is. In fact, this is in your chapter. It's in that little box, or not so little box that has all those verbs in it. It's going to trigger the subjunctive of the verb entrar. Our subject of this is the word visitantes, which is plural, obviously, so our answer here, no dejan que entren. Question 3. Madre a su hijo. This is someone talking directly to somebody else. Te prohíbo que me, our verb is hablar. Prohíbo, does this verb trigger subjunctive? Absolutely. It's a verb of influence. Anything that's like, I want you to, I prohibit you to, I need you to, that's always going to trigger the subjunctive. Now, what form do we need? Well, we need something in present, because this is in present, and she's talking to him directly, so we want the tu form. Te prohíbo que me hables. De esa manera. Just a note, because I saw some people did this, make sure if you have a word que that's separating two clauses, this verb has to be conjugated, okay? If there were no que, we could have said te prohíbo hablarme. De esa manera. That would work. But if there's a que, we have to conjugate because it's two different ideas. So, same thing, keep that in mind for cuatro. Yo te invito a que. I invite you to participate in the discussion. Invito a que. This is also a trigger for the subjunctive. It's a, you can think of it as a verb of influence, a verb of will. I want you to. I invite you to. I need you to. And same thing, we have a yo te invito. So I invite you to participate. We want to put this participes, present tense, subjunctive. Question 5. Le pedí más tiempo. All right, we've got something in the past now, so we got to think about that. Le pedí más tiempo al profesor, pero él me dijo que. So here we have two things to think about. When it is the verb decir, he told me. It can mean two things. He told me to do something. That would be subjunctive, because it's a verb of influence. But if it's, he told me that something, that's not a verb of influence. That's just telling you a fact. All right, in this case, we're just telling a fact. He told me that it was too late. No subjunctive. So all we really need here is some form of ser. And I really took basically any form of ser that you gave me. The one I expected you to give me was era. He told me it was too late. If you gave me sería, he told me it would be too late, that's fine too. Question 6. El policía nos dijo que reducir la velocidad. Alright, that's the essential part of this question. So the policeman told us that, or he told us to? Here what makes sense is he told us to. In this case, it is a verb of influence. So we're going to use the past subjunctive because we see that we have the verb dijo in the past. Typically, you're never going to mix a verb in the past tense in your first clause with a verb in the present tense in your second clause. You're going to typically make them match. They're parallel, all right? So he told us to reduce our speed. We want to put this then in past subjunctive, and we want to put it in the nosotros form because he wanted that we reduce our speed. He told us that we had to reduce our speed. So we take the verb reducir, and we got to know how to conjugate reducir in order to get to this. How do we get to our forms for the past subjunctive? Well, we need to know reducir in the preterite. Alright? And if you know the verb conducir or traducir or any verb that ends with CIR, you know that in the preterite it gets jota. Okay? So we don't say yo reducí, but rather yo reduje. And our ellos form would be redujeron. Alright? This is our origin for the subjunctive forms. So we want the past perfect, we want the imperfect subjunctive. So we just take off our ending, and our verb is redujéramos. Now, I did not count for accents on this. I'm going to point out, too, that if you don't remember how to conjugate this, these aren't being proctored, okay? You could look up conjugations of reducir, find the preterite form, and then put it into the subjunctive. So if you know what you're looking for, it's not too hard. It's just remembering what are the circumstances, what are the rules for subjunctive versus not. El 7. El dietista me recomendó. So the dietitian recommended that I supplement my diet with a vitamin. Recomendar is a context for the subjunctive. We have a verb in the past tense, so we want this verb suplementar in the past subjunctive. How do we get there? Well, we start off with our past tense, ellos form. We take off the ellos part, and we add the endings. If you're still fuzzy on that, you don't have the endings memorized, go back and review the imperfect subjunctive, okay? That will be important. Número 8, es obvio que ese niño excepcionalmente listo. So it's obvious that that boy is exceptionally bright, exceptionally clever. Our phrase here is es obvio que. And when we have a phrase like es obvio que, es claro que, those do not require the subjunctive. Okay, that's a statement of fact, of certainty. And so the best answer for this would simply be es. Número 9. Por fin logré convencer a mi amigo a que, verb ir con nosotros. So I finally managed to convince my friend. That phrase should sound very subjunctive-y to you, okay? We're not saying he went with me. We're saying I managed to convince him that he should go, that he should go with us. All right, we got this in past tense, logré. That means that whatever follows here needs to be past subjunctive. Ir is totally irregular in past subjunctive. That's our forms fuera, fueras, fuera. So that's what we want here. A que fuera con nosotros. If it had been in present tense, we would have said vaya. Alright, so I'm trying to convince my friend a que vaya con nosotros. Last two. Question 10, we have prefiero esta salsa de tomate porque contener menos sal que la otra. Alright, I prefer this tomato sauce because it has less salt. I'm just stating here, I'm stating a fact. Alright, we don't need subjunctive at all. All we need to do is conjugate the verb contener, and the verb contener will be conjugated just like tener, so contiene. Lastly, estoy en un gran lío. I'm in a big mess. ¿Qué me sugieres? Another very classic verb that you learn that always triggers subjunctive. What do you suggest that I do? Sugieres is in present tense. Our verb hacer needs to be in present tense. So, ¿qué me sugieres que haga? And we got to haga once again by going to the yo form hago, drop your o, add your opposite ending. Alright. So, hopefully that was a little bit helpful to you as you look back at your quiz. If I have it set up correctly, which I hopefully do, it will give me, yes, 20 out of 20. Okay, fantastic. So, if you have any questions about the uses of the subjunctive, you can always, the first thing I recommend is that you just exhaust all your study resources. So there are online resources, you can use your book, there are tutors in the language lab that are pretty good. Most of them well, all of them actually have gone through the courses. A few of them are native speakers. They should be very helpful to you. I think that schedule is posted on the news tab, and you can also go down to the language lab and ask about their availability. Also, feel free to email me, talk to other professors. But yeah, this will be a topic that comes up again, so definitely keep studying, keep working on it. Hopefully this was helpful. Have a great spring break, y hasta luego.